Hey folks, happy patch day. Hope you're excited about 9.1. I think Prot Pal is in a real solid spot going into Mythic Plus. So, from a talent perspective, you've got a couple options here. You can go with Holy Shield or Blessed Hammer, and it really comes down to what your priority is. Blessed Hammer is nice to run when you're going to be heavy kiting, lets you generate holy power without being in melee. You know, if you can complement Blessed Hammer with consecrated ground that reduces your enemy's speed by 50% in tier 6, you're actually ahead of the game. And for a class that doesn't have all the mobility, this is a real smart play. So really consider that. Alternatively, Holy Shield's pretty credible. It's really just the default choice when you're looking at a defensive build. Being able to block spells is unique to paladins, although most damage just comes from like physical melee attacks these days. You're not seeing as much spell damage as there used to be. Tier 2, First Avenger is kind of the recommended go-to on this one. Um, Ultimately, causing your Avenger shield to bounce to 2 additional targets is just pretty smooth. Um, Mon- Sorry about that. Crusader's Judgment, giving you 2 charges. That's really favorable for raid builds, but First Avenger actually nets you more AoE damage. So keep that in mind. It really makes a real solid difference here. Now, if you're jumping down to tier 3, this really just comes down to the utility that you need. They're all credible. Um, Fist of Justice is nice if you need more Hammers of Justice. I personally typically prefer this. I usually avoid Repentance. I haven't used that since probably back in Legion. However, Blinding Light definitely has some real benefits in terms of interrupting a large mob if you're going to see multiple spells coming your way. Tier 4, you've got a couple options here. Unbreakable Spirit, that always has a little bit of credibility to it, especially if you're going to take advantage of your lay on hands. Cavalier is great if you're going to be kiting and you need more than 1 charge on your Divine Steed, or alternatively, Blessing of Spell Warding, and that's probably one of the 2 toss-ups I'd say here. So, Unbreakable Spirit if you're looking to probably bring a bit more damage. Blessing of Spell Ward, Blessing of Spell Warding, it's just got really good potential just to cancel some mechanics that you'll see a couple different mobs throw at you. Now on to tier 5. Divine Purpose is the best talent in the row for defensiveness. Really kind of smooths out your damage intake and allows you to use Word of Glory for free. That's just really nice in terms of off healing or being able to keep yourself alive. Holy Avenger gives you additional burst, and that's nice if you're going Venthyr with Ashen Hollow. Um, Ultimately, if you're taking advantage of like Shield of the Righteous and it's unlimited amount of damage that it's going to drop in an AoE perspective, that's okay. Um, Seraphim is kind of your top end for damage. So if you're looking to actually push the meters, that's one way to go. Me, I'm trying to stick with my responsibility is to stay alive first and foremost. So that's why I'm going with Divine Purpose. Now, tier 6, you've got a couple options. Consecrated Ground, I spoke about earlier. You kind of know with Blessed Hammer, it's pretty favorable that way. Consecrated Ground and Judgment of Light are both kind of go to picks. Um, Consecrated is really the default choice when you're doing Mythic. The meta is to kite and then kite some more. Ask any demon hunter you come across. Um, the size is nice and it allows us a little bit more room to move around within our consecration. Alternatively, Judgment of Light should be taken on pretty much all other content since it really requires no thought and provides a large portion of passive healing. Hand of the Protector is fun. It just basically replaces Word of Glory and allows you um, to be able to top up some of your coworkers a little bit easier. Now, finally, Tier 7. you're going to see a couple different options get recommended here. Generally, Righteous Protector is the go-to. It's the strongest from a defensive perspective, but also from an offensive one. So being able to reduce the cooldown of your strongest offensive and defensive is really strong. Bringing Avenging Wrath down to around a 1 minute cooldown, it's really one of the main reasons Paladins are able to do as much damage as they do. And that's one of the reasons I really prefer Paladins. It's the burst. We're all about that burst. Like I mentioned earlier, 3 of 4 covenants are relatively useful. If you're looking to min-max, you're probably leaning towards Venthyr, although I really like Kyrian. It's really nice for personal defense and utility, once you tie it up with First Avenger, and that's obviously tied to our Divine Toll ability. Necrolord is a complete pass. Don't touch it. But Night Phase, it's credible. You can have a little bit of fun. We did see a little bit of an adjustment with Blessing of Winter here going into 9.1, but not substantial enough to make me change. Now, from a legendary perspective, Relentless Inquisitor gives you a 5% haste buff. That's pretty attractive. If you're doing that, you're actually not going to run into issues with Shield of the Righteous uptime, which is incredible because we don't say that very often. The Mad Paragon is your go-to if you want to max out your DPS, especially if you're stacking it with Venthyr's Ashen Hollow or Holy Avenger like we had mentioned. There's a ton of burst ability there. Bulwark of Righteous Fury increases the damage of your next Shield of Righteousness by 30% per target your Avenger shield hits. So can stack up to a total of 5 for about 150% increase. That's attractive. Not as attractive as this T-Mog, but it's pretty sharp. Now, finally, let's talk stat priorities. You want to go with any kind of strength, that's your primary stat. But now that you're into secondary, you want to go haste, mastery, versatility, and finally critical strike. Alright folks, I ran through that really quick. Drop it down in the comments, any questions you have. Ultimately, Prot Pal's in a great spot. I'm going to have a bunch of fun with it in Mythic Plus. I hope you do too. Thanks for watching. Later.